Hey guys, welcome back. Emily Jean if you're new here. And today I thought we'd do something a little bit different, hopefully fun. And I'm going to try to guess the plots and some information about the book just based on the cover alone. Hopefully you'll play along with me. Put your guesses in the comments as we go along and then we can see if we are right or not. So if you want to join me, grab your coffee, grab your tea, water, and let's get cozy. So I just did a Google image search for beautiful covers, picked a few that I was drawn to that I had not heard about before. I have not looked up any of these, and we're just gonna go for it. I think I can do this as a presentation. Perfect. Woven in Moonlight. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. Come on. Okay, Isabel Ibanez. Okay, few things that I'm noticing. The swords dipped in blood. Oh, love this color scheme with the orange, this kind of Aztec pattern here. It says woven in moonlight, seize the night. Oh, I just saw this little ninja back here. Okay, so there's also a ninja behind the woods. So is she running away from him? Are they going to end up being lovers? Is there a romance involved? Do you see the ninja down here? Okay, so I think adult. Maybe new adult, but I think adult. I think now that I saw this guy in the black, I think there's going to be a romance involved. I think it's going to be like enemies to lovers. I feel like she's going to be discovering her skills. She's going to be like trained in a specialized community, like growing up in this special wise community. And maybe it's like, oh, I don't know. She's either like meant to be a warrior or it's like forbidden to be a warrior. And so now she's diving into being a warrior. So like, young woman discovers her abilities, falls in love, and saves the community. That's my guess. Let's see how right we are. Okay, before we find out, write your guesses in the comments. What is Woven in Moonlight about? Okay, it is young adult fiction. It is fantasy with a little bit of contemporary. Okay. Ooh. One of Time Magazine's 100 best fantasy books of all time. I have not heard of this. Have you? A lush tapestry of magic, romance, and revolution, drawing inspiration from Bolivian politics and history. Ximena is the decoy condessa, a stand-in for the last remaining Illustrian royal. Her people lost everything when the usurper Atok used his ancient relic to summon ghosts and drive the Illustrians from La Ciudad. Ciudad? God, that's embarrassing. The Ciudad. Okay, so are we close? I feel like that's pretty close. Do we not have more of a description than that? So, I mean, it definitely mentions romance. Check. Definitely mentions that she's trained for a particular reason. She's a decoy condessa. And the only piece is, does she end up saving, like, the community? And does she end up falling in love with the usurper, with, like, the enemy? I don't know. Maybe GoodReads has a different description. Ooh, it's a series. 3.89. I'm definitely adding it as want to read. Okay. Ximena is the decoy condessa, a stand-in for the last remaining Illustrian royal. Her people lost everything when the usurper Atok used an ancient relic to summon ghosts and drive the Illustrians from La Ciudad. Now Ximena is motivated by her insatiable thirst for revenge and her rare ability to spin thread from moonlight. When Atok demands the real Condessa's hand in marriage, it's Ximena's duty to go in her stead. She relishes the chance as Illustrian spies have reported that Atok's no longer carrying his deadly relic. If Ximena can find it, she can return the true aristocrata to their rightful place. Okay, so the only piece is we don't know if it turns out to be enemies or lover, but this sounds really good. I would say I was pretty close. I'm happy with my guess on that one. How did you guys do? Okay, let's go to the next one. Next one is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I have not heard of this. I'm not familiar with this author. I guess she has an Enchantment of Ravens. Okay, so 1, definitely fantasy. I'm thinking adult fantasy. Probably going to end up being YA, but I think adult fantasy, Sorcery of Thorns. Okay. So, we've definitely got these thorns on her arm that are like probably trying to trap or pull her. We see her with a sword though, and there's a lot of rubies, which would indicate like some sort of royalty or wealth. So, princess fighting against nature and the natural worlds. There's some resistance to the nature around them. Like I'm thinking maybe the woods or the rose bushes, or like some part of nature takes on a character and she has to kind of fight against the natural worlds in order to save the kingdom. Okay, that's my guess. Okay. Oh, I thought it was adult. Young adult, but it is fantasy. Urban fantasy. Okay. So it's an enthralling adventure about an apprentice at a magical library who must battle a powerful sorcerer to save her kingdom. All sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she has known anything. Raised as a foundling in one of Ostamir's great libraries, Elizabeth has grown up among the tools of sorcery. If provoked, they transform into grotesque monsters of ink and leather. Then an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire, and Elizabeth is implicated in the crime. With no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorne, and his mysterious demonic servant, she finds herself entangled in a centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. As her alliance with Nathaniel grows, Elizabeth starts to question everything she's been taught about sorcerers, the library she loves, even about herself. For Elizabeth has a power she has never guessed and a future she could never have imagined. So the only piece I got right was that it was fantasy. Nothing else seems right. I mean, there is a kingdom, so she probably does end up saving the kingdom. So a little nod for that. That sounds pretty good. I think it could have been done differently, but maybe it ends up matching the theme of it. I would definitely have not guessed library, books coming to life, like fighting a battle with sorcerers. So, there we go. Ready for the next one? Okay. Nobody. A Hymn to the Sea. That just drew me in. A Hymn to the Sea by Alice Oswald. So first, I'm kind of thinking poetry anthology. This just feels like poetry anthology vibes to me, this cover. A Hymn to the Sea is kind of lyrical and musical. But then I'm also kind of thinking thriller vibes because it's got that dark blue, the dark kind of background. Nobody makes me think like that's a little mysterious. So am I going to go poetry anthology or thriller horror? What is it called? Domestic thriller. I feel like if this is a thriller, it's a domestic thriller about like a relationship gone wrong or something hidden between a husband and a wife. I feel like we're going to see somebody discovering themselves, and it's going to be like a contemporary domestic thriller. Or a poetry anthology. I'm going to go with contemporary domestic thriller with a woman like rediscovering herself. Maybe someone drowned in the sea. Those are my guesses for now. Okay. Poetry! It's poetry. Always trust your first instinct, Emily. It's poetry, a collage of water stories from the Odyssey reconstructed as a mesmeric and hallucinatory book-length poem by acclaimed poet Alice Oswald. What? This sounds so good. Adding that to my Goodreads. 4.16 stars, only 244 ratings, but that sounds so good. So if I got with my first instinct, I would have been correct. I didn't really ever guess what the poems were about, but I definitely got the poetry anthology vibes. So there we go. This sounds so good. I mean, familiar voices drift in and out of the poem, no proper names, but we recognize like Helios, Icarus. Oh, this sounds so cool. As with all of Oswald's work, this is poetry that's made for the human voice, but here the language takes on the quality of another element, dense, muscular, and liquid. Ooh, cool. Okay. So, I don't know. Do I count it? Do I not? I second guessed myself. Let's see what the next one is. Okay, I picked out this cover because just look at the energy in this. It's like chaotic. All the words around. No True Believers by Rabia York Lombard. The biggest thing says trust no one. There's numb, Muslim, inked frame, truth, trust, Korean bigotry. So main character is going to be this young woman. I definitely feel like this is adult fiction. It's got almost like a little nonfiction vibe. No True Believers. I feel like this is going to be a journey of this young person discovering themselves in the world of religion, what's expected of them, and how they find their way through that. I feel like it's going to be a commentary on kind of societal pressures, on how do you figure out what you believe without everybody else's words around you and influencing you. I am going to say contemporary fiction, and I feel like it's going to be a coming of age story, but it feels a little bit older. Maybe like 25 to 28. So young adultish, new adultish. Figuring out how to deal with those cultural pressures, being judged, stigmatized. See over here, it has dark web and hidden danger. Like, is there going to be a fantasy element to this? Is there going to be some mystery here? Does she go, or does this person, I guess I shouldn't assume it's just she, but does this person go and like try to figure out, like, look, hacked? Oh, does she become a hacker? Okay, so going against tradition by becoming a hacker, how does she discover her true self and what she believes? Okay, there we go. Let's see. Okay, it is fiction, thriller, suspense. Fans of the riveting mystery in Courtney Summers' Sadie and the themes of race and religion in Samir Ahmad's Internment will be captivated by this exploration of the intersection of Islamophobia and white supremacy as an American Muslim teen is forced to confront hatred and hidden danger when she is framed for a terrorist act she did not commit. Salma Bakioui has always loved living in her suburban cul-de-sac with her best friend Miriam next door and her boyfriend Amir nearby. Then things start to change. Friends start to distance themselves. Miriam's family moves when her father's patients no longer want a Muslim chiropractor. Even trusted teachers look the other way when hostile students threaten Salma at school. After a terrorist bombing nearby, Islamophobia tightens its grip around Salma and her family. Shockingly, she and Amir find themselves with few allies as they come under suspicion for the bombing. As Salma starts to investigate who's framing them, she uncovers a deadly secret conspiracy with suspicious ties to her new neighbors, but no one believes her. Salma must use her coding talent, wits, and faith to expose the truth and protect the only home she's ever known before it's too late. Kind of close with the hacking. She's got some coding skills. Maybe she hacks into some of these sites to figure it out, but definitely did not pick up on being framed for the terrorist bombing. I do think it will be a bit of like a coming of age, like understanding, but I am not going to give myself a 10 out of 10 on that one. This does sound really good though, so I'm going to add it to my Goodreads. Look, only 312 ratings. There's so many books that, I mean, I haven't read this yet, but I feel like there's so many books. How do you get everybody? Oh, G marked it as to read. How do we get more eyes on more books? There's just so many books out there. 3.97. We'll see how it is. Okay, I think I have one more for you guys. Let's go check it out. Okay, this is the last one I picked out. This is Glimpse of Another Shore, a novel by Sarah Ahirs. Okay, total mermaid tale right there. I love that the mermaid tale is like sketched, but the seaweed is realistic. Like, that makes me think it's like a contemporary fiction rather than a fantasy. And a contemporary fiction about a woman who's just gone through a divorce, living by the seashore, and rediscovering herself. And there's going to be some nudge to like how much she loved mermaids, or like her love for the sea, and like healing through connecting to the sea and mermaid lore. That's my guess. Let's see. It's not on Google Books. Okay, let's try Goodreads. Okay, it's not on Goodreads either. Is this a pretend book? What's going on here? Okay, so it looks like an indie author sold it to Harper Teen. No, Assassin's Heart. Sarah Ahirs. My writing. How do we figure out what's going on? Oh, did she write it for NaNoWriMo? Behold our second and final cover of the day. Glimpse of Another Shore. In a country where one member of each household must serve the Navy in the war effort. I was so off. 16-year-old Pierre Arvin is doomed to spend his life as an exotic kelp farmer. I was so off. When Pierre finds an orphan sea serpent, he decides to keep it as a pet. Everyone knows the serpent will eat a man faster than he can blink, so surely the serpent rule will add some excitement to his life. Joint swims around the reef in close calls with sharks shows Pierre you don't have to wear a naval uniform to find action or catch the eyes of pretty girls. But when Rule accidentally injures Pierre's younger sister and then he attracts the attention of the enemy navy, Pierre realizes the idea of war is very different than the real thing. Now he has to make a choice: surrender Rule and his town to the enemy, or risk his life and attempt to free them all. That sounds so good. So did Sarah write this for NaNoWriMo and then they created covers for some of the books that were written? That's so cool. Okay, now I see that it's probably not a mermaid tale. It's probably the end of that sea creature. So I was totally off, but this sounds good. I hope it gets published, or that I could find it somewhere. But it looks like this was back in 2015. So it doesn't look like it was officially published, but I think this was a great cover representation, and I was so off on it. Did you get closer than I did? Let me know. Okay, that was our last cover to guess the plot of. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to do this again if you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye, guys.